New York City, 8.5 million people. The financial capital of the world, the creative heartbeat of a nation. But lately, the promise of the city has come under strain. Rents have soared, groceries cost more than ever. The subway feels slower. The streets feel tougher. For many New Yorkers, life in the city that never sleeps has become exhausting. And in 2025, they decided it was time for something different. Someone different. His name was Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani was born in 1991 in Kampala, Uganda. His parents, an Indian mother and an East African father, moved to New York City when he was just 7. Growing up in Queens, he saw both sides of the immigrant story, opportunity and struggle. Before politics, he worked as a tenant counselor, helping families fight eviction. That work changed his life. In 2020, he ran for the New York State Assembly and won, becoming one of the state's youngest lawmakers. By 2025, he was ready for something bigger, the race to lead America's largest city. When Mamdani entered the race, New York was at a crossroads. The pandemic had redrawn the city's map. Remote work emptied office towers, small businesses closed, and crime dominated headlines. Yet no issue hit harder than housing and cost of living. By mid-2025, the median rent in Manhattan surged past $4,000 a month, a record. Home ownership out of reach. For many, staying in the city meant working 2 jobs or moving an hour away. Politicians kept talking about progress. Voters kept talking about survival. That's when a 33-year-old assemblyman from Queens stepped forward and promised to make New York livable again. Mamdani's message was clear and to some radical. He called for a citywide rent freeze on stabilized apartments, free city buses funded by a tiny tax on Wall Street transactions, a higher minimum wage, and universal childcare. He called his plan simple: tax the rich, build the city. Critics called it unrealistic. Supporters called it common sense. Either way, it resonated. As one voter told The Guardian, "He's the first candidate I've heard talk about my rent more than about Wall Street." Representation mattered. If elected, Mamdani would be New York's first Muslim mayor, its first South Asian-born leader, and one of the youngest in modern history. For many immigrants, that meant everything. His rallies looked like New York itself. Different languages, different faces, same energy. People held signs reading, "Finally, one of us." But Mamdani never framed it as identity politics. It was about experience. Riding the subway, paying rent late, watching parents work 2 jobs. Authenticity, that was his secret weapon. Every movement needs a contrast. His main opponent was Andrew Cuomo, former governor, political heavyweight, and a man with baggage. Cuomo's return to politics divided the city. Some saw experience. Others saw the establishment. Mamdani leaned in. He told voters, "This isn't left or right, it's top and bottom." Time magazine called the race a referendum on who the city belongs to. Landlords or tenants, executives or workers. It was old politics versus new possibility. And New York was ready to choose. Mamdani's campaign was anything but traditional. No million-dollar fundraisers, no corporate consultants, just volunteers. Thousands of them, knocking on doors, making calls, handing out flyers in every borough. On social media, the movement exploded. Hashtags like #MamdaniMovement and #RentFreezeNow flooded TikTok and Twitter. By September, polls showed Mamdani with a double-digit lead over Cuomo. For the first time in years, a candidate had turned grassroots hope into real momentum. June 24, 2025. Primary day. Across 5 boroughs, New Yorkers lined up to vote under ranked choice rules, a system that rewards broad appeal. As ballots were counted, Mamdani swept Queens, Brooklyn, and the Bronx. Just before midnight, Andrew Cuomo conceded, saying, "This city has chosen a new path." In November's general election, he faced Cuomo again, now running independent, and Republican Curtis Sliwa. The final tally, Mamdani just over 50%, Cuomo around 41%, Sliwa roughly 7%. Fireworks lit up Queens as New York elected its first Muslim mayor. The Guardian called it A historic shift in America's largest city. So, why did Zohran Mamdani win? Because he arrived at the right moment. Economic anxiety was high, hope was low, and his message cut through both. Because his story mattered. The child of immigrants who rode the subway to school and fought evictions for a living. Because his policies were human, direct, and easy to grasp. And because the establishment left a vacuum, one that he filled with authenticity and optimism. Still, governing won't be easy. Free transit and rent freezes face resistance from developers, business groups, and state lawmakers. As one analyst told Reuters, winning an election is one thing. Running New York City is another. As mayor, Mamdani inherits a $110 billion budget and a city still recovering from economic whiplash. His tax the rich proposal faces legal hurdles in Albany. Developers warn that a rent freeze could stall construction. Yet supporters say status quo policies already failed a generation. For them, this is the real test. Can activist energy translate into effective governance? If he succeeds, Mamdani could reshape not just New York, but urban politics across America. Mamdani's rise doesn't stand alone. Across the country, cities are electing leaders who look and sound different from the past. In Chicago, Brandon Johnson, a teacher and union organizer, took City Hall. In Los Angeles, Karen Bass made history as its first female mayor. Together, they signal a shift from transactional politics to transformational leadership. And in that shift, New York's vote may be the loudest of all. On election night in Queens, Mamdani took the stage beside his mother. Confetti fell. Crowds chanted his name. He smiled and said, "Tonight we celebrate. Tomorrow we get to work." For millions of New Yorkers, that wasn't a slogan. It was a promise. Promise that the city could once again belong to everyone who calls it home. Zohran Mamdani's victory will be remembered for its firsts. Muslim, South Asian, youngest. But its real legacy? A reminder that in New York, and maybe everywhere, hope can still win. Every question hides a reason. Every answer reveals a story. If this one made you see the world a little differently, give it a like. And if you want to keep uncovering the hidden why behind our world, hit subscribe and stay curious.